So if we go to an artist level, I mean, if first off, I think more than many industries, music industry's seen so much commercial change over the last, well, let's say 20, 30 years, right? The business model just completely turned upside down. So first off, like how has that had an influence on new artists coming into the market, and how has that changed the process for the better or for the worse?
Well, I think it's changed it for the better. I think that when if you look back to the 60s, the 70s, even the 80s, there were the disruptors, the Miles Copelands, the Jeff Travises, the Martin Mills of the world, who wanted to really just do music that they wanted to do without any commercial gatekeepers, so, and there's always been that sort of maverick spirit in British music. But there was always a barrier to entry. Recording is very expensive. Recording studios are, by nature, you can look at this place, you would imagine it's not cheap to put something like this together. But the releasing of music became sort of much more democratized with digital. So, you could, for instance, make your own record and, go to one of the distribution services, AWOL or DistroKid or, one of those sorts of, solutions for releasing music to the streaming platforms. And all of a sudden, it's like, well, actually, I can get my music to the same place as Warner's or Sony or EMI or whatever. So that was exciting. And that really was an important part of how and why people like us exist, is that we didn't have to wait for somebody to say, yeah, we'll distribute your music. We just decided we were going to have a record label, and we just, went to someone and said, well, look, do you want to distribute it? And they said yes, because what's the downside for them? And so that's an exciting part of, what is going on right now and has been for years, is that, the barrier to entry, the gatekeepers have sort of been dismantled.
Which for the artist is a very positive thing.
It really is, because the other side of the coin is that when you look at the revenue splits, when we created this record label, we did not need to live from the share of revenue from the artist. We were selling our products. So, if you sign to Sony or Warner Brothers or a major, they want to live off their share of your revenue. Whereas we're happy to give most of the revenue back to the artist, because we're in a partnership that is, if we can support the artists, they will support our brand, and hopefully along the way they can make a career for themselves. Our main objectives is for the artists that come through our label, that at some point during the journey they become self-sufficient so they can keep the money that they're making.
Which is a really nice goal to have as a label, right?
It really
And
is.
quite unique.
And yeah, and it's
Really
not,
unique.
it's not the easiest journey in the world to be in a band and, release music and try to have a career as a musician. It's a really long, hard road. And most of the people who work at Marshall, actually, and certainly on this side of it, they've all been in bands. Adam, our studio manager, he's a live sound guy, was in a band, mixed live sound for bands. He's an amazing engineer. Ollie, his assistant, is a young musician, who's actually playing in one of our bands, Kid Bookie, right now. He's just been on tour with Kid Bookie. Steph Carter, our culture director, was in Gallows. It goes on. There's just so many musicians in our company. So I think we have more of a feel for it than a lot of record labels, quote unquote.
I love that. So when you sign a new artist, like what are the first steps in terms of getting that artist to a point where, in your words, they're self-sufficient and they're bringing enough revenue to pay for what they're doing, and that they've got to a certain point? I mean, it's probably a massive question, but really kind of at a high level, what does that process look like?
Well, first and foremost, an artist really, in this day and age, to come into our world, for instance, they have to play live. because without going out and playing live, it's always going to be difficult to compete in that marketplace, because those companies that can develop singer-songwriters and, dance artists and pop records, they have a different business model. Our first job is to help that band get on the road. So we will help them with backline. We will help connect them to the parts of the business that we have relationships already, whether it be management companies or booking agencies. And that journey, really, to get a band from scratch to 1 million streams on Spotify and some albums and some fans to sell vinyl and CDs to, that is where we really are. That's what we're here for, to help them on that journey.
So getting them out live is a really key thing.
Very important.
What other, I guess, like marketing activities traditionally fall into the mix for you? Because you've got, I guess, like PR. What else? What does that mix look like?
Yeah, for us, it's if we like to look at a band as a self-starting business, as I said. So we've got an in-house PR team. We've got a European PR team. We have in-house label team that will help organise the marketing and advise the artists what kind of content and how frequent they need that content. But most artists these days are producing so much content that the label really doesn't have to ask for it. They're all actually smart enough now to understand that, what the label will really do is help pull it all together. PR is a cost. We tend to say to them, look, you don't need to spend money on an independent PR. We have in-house PR team, specialist people, all experienced, and those people can really help, build that relationship with the media. But essentially, it's about shows, it's about content, and it's about our ability to help them put it all together, get the timing right, and make sure music is where it needs to be when they need it.